Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Today we'll be completing the 4th chapter in 3 more verses, and then we'll start the 5th chapter when Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva meet.
He ordered the demons to harass all kinds of saintly persons, and then he entered his house. Krishna book chapter 4. These demons, the followers of Kamsa, were expert at persecuting others, especially the Vaishnavas, and could assume any form they desired. After giving these demons permission to go everywhere and persecute the saintly persons, Kamsa entered his palace. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.44.
So previous to the appearance of Durga Devi, Kamsa alone was persecuting Devaki by killing her children. Oh, here we go again. Yes. Now he's making everyone happy, all of his counselors and ministers. Now he's given permission for them to use their demoniac powers. They were considered to be wizards because they could change their form any way they wanted in order to do demoniac activities. So they're very happy and they immediately set out on their job.
The adherents of Kamsa were all influenced by modes of passion as well as illusion by the modes of ignorance, and their only business was to create enmity with saintly persons. Such activities can only reduce the duration of life. The demons accelerated the process and invited their deaths as soon as possible. Krishna book chapter 4. Surcharged with passion and ignorance and not knowing what was good or bad for them, the asuras for whom impending death was waiting began the persecution of saintly persons. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.45.
Exactly what each of the demons set out to do was done to them. And the secret of this will be explained in just a few more frames when Durvasa Muni goes to Narayan to take shelter, and he explains what this law is.
As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra na vihati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Irresponsible persons, surcharged with passion and ignorance, foolishly do things that are not to be done. Nunam pramattah kurute vikarama. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.41. But one should know the result of irresponsible actions as explained in the next verse, 10.4.44 purport.
So each of these demons, later they concentrated specifically on Krishna. But at this point, they were very happy to kill any children that had been born within the last 10 days or more. So they were flying everywhere and using their mystic powers to kill, and we can assume also to eat these little children, because that's what demons do. They drop it. So the Rakshasas were also familiar with this art of killing little babies by dropping them from the sky. This particular demon, Shakatasura, he took the form of a cart to kill Krishna. Krishna was only 3 months old. At 3 months, a child is finally able to turn over by themselves. So there's a special sanskar. Parshva. Par means to go over, and sva means by oneself. So Mother Yasoda was getting everything ready for the ceremony, welcoming the guests and getting the prasadam ready. And Shakatasura, he took that opportunity to take the form of a cart, and Krishna kicked him and killed him. So Krishna, playing as a tiny little baby, 3-month-old baby, even then he could kill demons.
The result of persecuting saintly persons is not only ultimately death, untimely death, sorry. The result of persecuting saintly persons is not only untimely death. The act is so offensive that the actor also gradually loses his beauty, his fame, and his religious principles, and his promotion to higher planets is also checked. Driven by various kinds of mental concoctions, the demons diminish all kinds of welfare. An offense at the lotus feet of the devotees and the brahmanas is a greater offense than that committed at the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus a godless civilization becomes the source of all calamities. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of 4th chapter of Krishna. Kamsa begins his persecutions.
Now some of the demons, they concentrated just on Krishna. And other demons, they were happy to kill all the little children. For instance, when Bakasura came, he took the form of a baka, or a heron, a very big heron. And you'll see here, now when we go to Nandagaon, Barshana, we turn left at Chata, and we go past a village called Kaira. So Kaira is the place where Bakasura was killed. Krishna was playing there with his friends. There's a kund there. Some people call it Krishna Kund. I don't know the name exactly. And that's where Bakasura was. Now the first thing he tried to do was eat all of the cowherd boys. He was chasing after them. So the cowherd boys, they immediately took shelter of Krishna. And they yelled out, "Kare, Kare!" He's trying to eat us. So that's where the name of that village comes from, Kaira. Then when Krishna saw that his cowherd boyfriends, who were his very life and soul, were being harassed by this Baka, he decided to kill him. So Baka then attacked Krishna and swallowed him. And all the demigods in the sky, they were, again, ha ha, alas, alas, what's going to happen? They were so afraid of these powerful demons.
My dear king, when a man persecutes great souls, all his benedictions of longevity, beauty, fame, religion, blessings and promotion to higher planets will be destroyed. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.46. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of 10th canto 4th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Atrocities of King Kamsa.
So Sukadeva Goswami here is giving a prelude to what we're going to read, what we'll be reading in the next few chapters. He says, everything is destroyed when one persecutes great souls. So one by one, Krishna will kill each one of these great demons in the upcoming chapters.
Bakasura thought, If somehow or other I can make Krishna and his associates serve as a last offering of sesame and water for the departed souls of my brother and sister, then the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, for whom these boys are the life and soul, will automatically die. If there is no life, there is no need for the body. Consequently, when their sons are dead, naturally all the inhabitants of Vraja will die. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 15. The great wizards who were able to assume any form were engaged by the king of Bhoja Kamsa to kill Krishna. But in the course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as a child breaks dolls. Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 2, 30.
So first Putana, then Baka, then the third brother, Aga. He wanted to kill all the little boys because his reasoning was very perfect logic. If he kills the children, and the children are the life of the Brijbasis, then naturally all the Brijbasis will die. So this was his demoniac plan. But what happened? Krishna killed Aga. So the three of them then were dead.
The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. O Brahmana, let me now advise you for your own protection. Please hear from me. By offending Maharaj Ambarish, you have acted with self-envy. Therefore, you should go to him immediately, without a moment's delay. One's so-called prowess, when employed against the devotee, certainly harms him who employs it. Thus it is the subject, not the object, who is harmed. Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4, 68, 69.
So Durvasa Muni, he was a powerful yogi. Yogi, sannyasi, renunciate, tapasi, everything. But he was envious of Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj was a lowly kshatriya, a grihasta. In Gevi, he also hatched a plan by, he understood that Ambarish Maharaj was performing a special vrat, the Dwadasi vrat. And he made sure, after he came to see Ambarish Maharaj, he went for a bath and he didn't return in time for Ambarish to properly break the fast. So Ambarish Maharaj, after consulting the Brahmins, drank a little water to break the fast. And Durvasa Muni, in envy and anger from his hair, created a demon to kill Ambarish, who was a pure devotee of the Lord. And immediately, the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord came and chased Durvasa Muni for 1 year all over the entire universe. He was so powerful. Finally, when Brahma couldn't save him, when Shiva couldn't save him, he appealed to Narayan. And Narayan spoke these 2 slokas. And here is the real law of nature. Thus it is the subject, not the object, who is harmed. Because the pure devotees are protected just like a shield. We've heard of the Narayan Kavacha. Well, the pure devotees are so well protected by the Lord that anything that a demoniac or envious person tries to do to that devotee immediately comes back upon them. So that's what was happening to Durvasa Muni, these demons who tried to kill Krishna or his devotees.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very strongly recommended that one not commit any offense at the lotus feet of a devotee. Such offenses are compared to a mad elephant, because when a mad elephant enters a garden, it causes devastation. Therefore, one should be extremely careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of a pure devotee.
So here in Chaitanya Leela, which is mirror image to Krishna Leela, we have the two demons who took birth as Jagai Madhai, it's Shishupal and Dantavakra. And they, one of them hit Nityananda Prabhu and caused blood to flow from his head. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately came with his Sudarshan Chakra and was going to kill them both. But Nityananda Prabhu, he reminded him that you've come to uplift exactly fallen people like this. So give them your mercy. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and begged forgiveness, he then blessed them and they became devotees of the Lord. So similarly, we'll hear next. Where's the one about Kamsa? All right, we'll hear in this coming up chapter Kamsa in the Gora Lila. Now we're going to start chapter 5.
Chapter 5. Meeting of Nanda and Vasudeva. The meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva. Chapter summary. As described in this chapter, Nanda Maharaj very gorgeously performed the birth ceremony for his newborn child. Then he went to Kamsa to pay taxes due, and met his intimate friend Vasudeva. There was great jubilation all over Vrindavan due to Krishna's birth. Everyone was overwhelmed with joy. Therefore the king of Raja, Maharaj Nanda, wanted to perform the birth ceremony for his child, and this he did. During this great festival, Nanda Maharaj gave in charity to all present whatever they desired. After the festival, Nanda Maharaj put the cowherd men in charge of protecting Gokula, and then he went to Mathura to pay official taxes to Kamsa. In Mathura, Nanda Maharaj met Vasudeva. Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva were brothers, and Vasudeva praised Nanda Maharaj's good fortune because he knew that Krishna had accepted Nanda Maharaj as his father. When Vasudeva inquired from Nanda Maharaj about welfare of the child, Nanda Maharaj informed him all about Vrindavan, and Vasudeva was very much satisfied by this, although he expressed his grief because Devaki's many children had been killed by Kamsa.
So only two people knew what Vasudeva had done. That was Devaki and Vasudeva himself. And Vasudeva didn't want to inform even Nanda Maharaj that he had traded babies. He wanted Nanda Maharaj to keep him very safely there. There's another comparison given that a cuckoo bird doesn't hatch her own eggs. She puts her egg in the nest of a crow. And the crow sits on the egg, and then when the baby hatches, the baby cuckoo flies away. So Vasudeva, he had put his baby safely, that's Lord Sri Krishna, under the care of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And there was no reason in the world for them to believe that that wasn't their baby. Only finally, when Vasudeva sent Garga Muni to do the name-giving ceremony, did Garga Muni give some hint? Because Garga Muni was able to see astrologically that this is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is actually the son of Vasudeva. So that's the perfection of the science of astrology, that one can see so clearly at the birth of a child. So Nanda Maharaj, he very gorgeously performed the birth ceremony after the appearance of Krishna. And then, because in those days, as the feudal system is, the king, in order to protect the citizens, he has to live, so he extracts taxes from all of the citizens for his own maintenance in exchange for protection. Of course, Kamsa, being such a sinful rascal, rather than protecting, he was persecuting all of the citizens. But still the citizens were forced to pay tax. So Nanda Maharaj, because it was time for him to pay his taxes, after performing the birth ceremony, he went to Mathura. And Prabhupada says here that Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj were brothers. That's because their fathers were brothers. Parjanya Maharaj and Surasen. They were the sons of Devamida Maharaj. Devamida Maharaj had a Vaishya wife and a Kshatriya wife. So they were born from those two different wives. And Parjanya Maharaj, he went to Braj and took up the activities of a Vaishya. Parjanya Maharaj had 5 sons, and Surasen, one of his sons, was Vasudeva. So they were just like brothers, cousin brothers. And they were so happy to see each other. But Vasudeva still did not disclose the secret of Krishna's birth and his transferal to Nanda Maharaj's care.
Nanda Maharaj consoled Vasudeva by saying that everything happens according to destiny, and that one who knows this is not aggrieved, expecting many disturbances in Gokula. Vasudeva then advised Nanda Maharaj not to wait in Mathura, but to return to Vrindavan as soon as possible. Thus Nanda Maharaj took leave of Vasudeva and returned to Vrindavan with the other cowherd men on their bullock carts.
So at this time Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men, because they were cowherd men, that meant that they wandered around wherever the grasses were nice for the cows. And at this time they had made their home in Gokul, in Mahavan, one of the 12 forests of Braj, on the other side of Jamuna River. So it was from that side that Nanda Maharaj came. And because Vasudeva advised him to go back quickly, he immediately left Mathura and went back to Mahavan, to Gokul. While he was away, Putana, she took that opportunity to come and try to kill Krishna.
Although Krishna was the real son of Vasudeva and Devaki, because of Kansa's atrocious activities, Vasudeva could not enjoy the birth ceremony of his son. But Nanda Maharaj, the foster father, celebrated the birth ceremony of Krishna very joyfully. The next day it was declared that a male child was born to Yashoda. According to Vedic custom, Nanda Maharaj called for learned astrologers and Brahmanas to perform the birth ceremony. After the birth of a child, the astrologers calculate the moment of the birth and make a horoscope of the child's future life. Krishna Book, Chapter 5.
So now we're beginning the 5th chapter. We finished the summary of the chapter from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here it's explained that Nanda Maharaj, he was so jubilant that the next day, because Krishna was born at midnight, from the Acharyas say from Mother Yashoda, then the next morning he announced that a male child had been born. And because Nanda Maharaj was the king of all of the cowherd men, everyone celebrated. And they were also quite elderly by that time, but still childless. So everyone doubly, triply celebrated that Nanda Maharaj has been blessed with a boy. There's so many beautiful bhajans that are sung at that time, and everyone, their different statuses, either they were giving or receiving, but everyone was in a joyous mood, singing and dancing, throwing butter, throwing yogurt, all rejoicing because at last their king, Nanda Maharaj, had a little baby child.
Another ceremony takes place after the birth of a child. The family members take baths, cleanse themselves, and decorate themselves with ornaments and garlands. Then they come before the child and the astrologer to hear of the future life of the child. Nanda Maharaj and other members of the family dressed and sat down in front of the birthplace. All the Brahmanas who were assembled there on this occasion chanted auspicious mantras according to the rituals, while the astrologers perform the birth ceremony. All the demigods are also worshipped on this occasion, as well as the forefathers of the family.
So Nanda Maharaj, for auspiciousness for his child, he was observing all of the traditional ceremonies for the Vaishyas. He called the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas he gave profuse charity to. Balas, the cowherd men, they came also to celebrate. So there are many different types of Brahmins. Some are engaged in reciting mantras, some of them are engaged as astrologers, some of them are engaged in giving histories of the family. So all of them came and did their service at this most auspicious time of Krishna's birth celebration.
Shukadeva Goswami said, Nanda Maharaj was naturally very magnanimous, and when Lord Sri Krishna appeared as his son, he was overwhelmed by jubilation. Therefore, after bathing and purifying himself and dressing himself properly, he invited Brahmanas who knew how to recite the Vedic mantras. After having his qualified Brahmanas recite auspicious Vedic hymns, he arranged to have the Vedic birth ceremony celebrated for his newborn child according to the rules and regulations, and he also arranged for worship of demigods and forefathers. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:5, 1 and 2.
At time of birth, we immediately become obligated to our forefathers, to the demigods, to the society, to our family members. So all of these obligations for an ordinary person have to be fulfilled successfully in human life. So Nanda Maharaj, being a Vaishya, he was doing his best to fulfill all of his responsibilities and doing his utmost. Whatever he had, at that time we can say that he had 900,000 cows. Well, here, in the next verse, or one or two verses, it said that he gave 2 million cows in charity to the Brahmins. He was so profusely charitable. He was so happy. Actually, he wanted to give everything away because he had gotten the most valuable jewel, which was his beautiful son, Sri Krishna.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has discussed the significance of the words Nandastu. The word tu, he says, is not used to fulfill the sentence, because without tu the sentence is complete. Therefore the word tu is used for a different purpose. Although Krishna appeared as the son of Devaki, Devaki and Sudeva did not enjoy the Jata Karma, the festival of the birth ceremony. Instead, this ceremony was enjoyed by Nanda Maharaj, as stated here, Nandastu Atmaja Utpane Jata Lhado Mahanaha. When Nanda Maharaj met Vasudeva, Vasudeva could not disclose, your son Krishna is actually my son. You are his father in a different way, spiritually. Because of fear of Kamsa, Vasudeva could not observe the festival for Krishna's birth. Nanda Maharaj, however, took full advantage of this opportunity. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:5, 1, 2 purport.
So this Jata Karma Sanskara, here it says Jata Lado, with great, and normally with an ordinary child, that's when the either the father or the nurse will cut the umbilical cord, so the child is then separated from the mother. But everyone was in such jubilation, in such ecstasy, that when Nanda Maharaj came to cut the umbilical cord, the nurse looked, and this is from Gopal Champu, there was no umbilical cord. But no one even cared if there was no, they were just so happy that they took the child immediately to perform the ceremony, the purification, the bathing, the feeding the Brahmins, the giving of charity. So whether or not there was a umbilical cord or not, according to the nurse there wasn't one, but according to Nanda Maharaj, he was too ecstatic to even notice whether there was one or not. So then he went on with these ceremonies to satisfy everyone because he was so happy.
The Jata Karma ceremony can take place with umbilical cord connecting the child and the placenta is cut. However, since Krishna was brought by Vasudeva to house of Nanda Maharaj, where was the chance for this to happen? In this regard, Vishwanath Chakravarti desires to prove with evidence from many Shastras that Krishna actually took birth as the son of Yashoda before the birth of Yogamaya, who is therefore described as Lord's younger sister. Even though there may be doubts about the cutting of the umbilical cord, and even though it is possible that this was not done, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, such events are regarded as factual. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.1.2 purport.
So we'll have to take the authority of the Acharyas to understand this amazing Leela of the Lord, because Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam. If one can understand his birth, or who can understand his birth? It was so exceptional. The fact that what other child has two parents? And what other child, his younger sister, is Yogamaya, Durga Devi herself. So Krishna, his birth from the very moment of his appearance was supernatural, exceptional, and beyond our comprehension. So if the Acharyas say that yes, Krishna was born from Yashoda, if the Acharyas say that when Vasudeva brought his son Vasudeva merged into that son of Yashoda, so who are we to doubt what the Acharyas say? Vishwanath Chakravarti, he's proving from many different Shastras, not exactly here, the Shastras, the verses aren't given, but just from that one word tu, he's able to prove, because that tu doesn't have to be there, but the tu is there because he says, with proof from other Shastras, that actually Krishna is the real son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Jai.
Krishna appeared as Varahadev from the nostril of Brahma, and therefore Brahma is described as father of Varahadev. Also significant are the words Karayamasa Vidivat. Being overwhelmed with jubilation over the birth of his son, Nanda Maharaj did not see whether the cord was cut or not. Thus he performed the ceremony very gorgeously. According to the opinion of some authorities, Krishna was actually born as the son of Yashoda. In any case, without regard for material understandings, we can accept that Nanda Maharaj's celebration for the ceremony of Krishna's birth was proper. This ceremony is therefore well known everywhere as Nandotsava. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.1.2 purport.
So it also just so happens that Srila Prabhupada appeared on the very day of Nandotsava. And when Srila Prabhupada was given his name by the astrologers, by his family members, one of his names was Nandu, because he appeared on Nandotsava day. And when here, what happened? When Prabhupada was here, I think it was 1976, Yashamati Nandan, his son, was born on Janmashtami. So they asked Prabhupada to name the son, because the son was born here in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada gave him that name, one of his childhood names, Nandu.
Nanda Maharaj distributed 2 lakh well-decorated, dressed and ornamented cows. It is 200,000.
But in the Bhagavatam it says 2 million.
Oh. So, well-dressed, ornamented cows to the Brahmanas. He not only gave cows in charity, but hills of grains decorated with golden bordered garments and many ornaments. Krishna Book Chapter 5. Nanda Maharaj, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Nanda Maharaj gave 2 million cows completely decorated with cloth and jewels in charity to the Brahmanas. He also gave them 7 hills of grain covered with jewels and with cloth decorated with golden embroidery. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.3.
So naturally, because the Brahmins are the representative of the Supreme Lord in human society, he was praying for the blessings, that the Brahmins would bless this little son, Krishna. Finally, just to get the blessings of the Brahmins, he gave either 200,000 or 2 million cows, depending upon which book you're reading. And he gave grains, 7 huge mounds of grains. He gave cloth with gold ornaments, and the cloth was decorated with embroidery, golden embroidery, and the hills of grains were covered with jewels. So Nanda Maharaj, in no way his generosity could ever be compared to, because here was his beloved son appearing, and it just so happened, though he didn't realize it at the time, but his son was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And being a Vaishya, Nanda Maharaj had so much wealth. For instance, later when Nanda Maharaj decides to move to his parental, the family, the ancestral grounds, which is Nandishwar, Nandagram, he had so much wealth that his wealth was kept in the town called Kosi, because Kosi means treasury. And what type of wealth was that? Ghee, milk, yogurt, all the products of the cows that they would use for trading. So when you take care of the cows properly, you become so wealthy that you can give so much charity to the Brahmins, so the Brahmins can give their blessings.
In the material world, we possess riches and wealth in many ways, but sometimes not in very honest and pious ways, because that is the nature of accumulating wealth. According to Vedic injunction, therefore, such wealth should be purified by giving cows and gold in charity to the Brahmanas. A newborn child is also purified by giving grains in charity to the Brahmanas. In this material world, it is to be understood that we are always living in a contaminated state. We therefore have to purify the duration of our lives, our possession of wealth, and ourselves. Krishna Book, Chapter 5.
Yeah, he's engaged in 3 main activities, and that is cow protection, business, agriculture, and lending of money, because he has wealth, so he's able to lend money. So sometimes a businessman, in order to make profit, he can't be completely truthful. He'll say, "For you I make no profit," when of course he's making profit, otherwise how can he live? So wealth in itself sometimes is not accumulated in completely honest manners. A Brahmin is completely honest, supposed to be completely honest, and he has no business. So he depends on the charity of the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas. So therefore, in order to purify the wealth of the Vaishyas, it's important to give charity to the Brahmins, because then that wealth is used in the Supreme Lord's service.
The duration of life is purified by taking daily bath and cleansing the body inside and outside, and accepting the 10 kinds of purificatory processes. By austerities, by worship of the Lord, by distribution of charity, we can purify the possession of wealth. We can purify ourselves by studying the Vedas, by striving for self-realization, and by understanding Supreme Absolute Truth. Krishna Book, Chapter 5.
So these are the recommended processes for purification, both externally and internally. Externally, just as Prabhupada has taught us, we take bath and we accept the 10 different types of sanskaras, beginning with the Jata sanskara, as they're doing to Krishna here at the time of his birth. And then after that, well, actually the first sanskara is Garbhodhan sanskara. So it's described in the Shastras how one night Yashoda Devi, at the appropriate time, she served her husband very faithfully, And from that service, the Supreme Lord was conceived. The child Krishna was conceived. So, internally and externally, it's our duty to become purified. And these are the recommended processes. Internally, by studying the Vedas, striving for Atma Tattva, and trying to understand the Supreme Absolute Truth.
It is therefore stated in Vedic literature that by birth everyone is born a Shudra, and by accepting the purificatory process one becomes twice born. By studies of the Vedas one can become Vipra, which is the preliminary qualification of becoming a Brahmana. When one understands the absolute truth in perfection, he is called a Brahmana. And when the Brahmana reaches further perfection, he becomes a Vaishnava, or a devotee. Krishna Book, Chapter 5.
So this is why there are several slokas in the Srimad Bhagavatam that explain that even if one is born as a dog eater, if he chants the holy name of the Lord, he's to be accepted as a Vaishnava. It means anyone who is a Vaishnava, either in this life or in previous life, he's undergone all the purificatory process required to become a Vipra, a Brahmin, and then finally the topmost platform, which is to become a Vaishnava. So here we have an example when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed the Chandkazi. I think coming up is how that happened. Yes.
O Diva, hear my words. The Chandkazi's village is none other than Mathura. After performing Kirtana, Gauranga gave love of God to the Kazi and liberated him. Mathura's King Kamsa of Krishna Leela became Chandkazi in Gaur Leela. For that reason, Gauranga addressed the Kazi as his maternal uncle. And out of fear, Kazi took shelter of Gauranga's lotus feet under orders from Hussain Shah, who was the king of Bengal Empire, and Jarasandha in Krishna Leela. The Kazi caused disturbance during Kirtan performance by breaking the mridangas. The Lord, appearing in the form of Narsimha, half man, half lion, put fear in the Kazi's heart. Like Kamsa, the Kazi cowered in fear. Sri Chaitanya, however, gave him prema and thus made the Kazi a great devotee. Sri Navadvip Dham Mahatmya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
So by the grace of the Acharyas, we're able to see the combined activities of Gaura Leela and Krishna Leela. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his Leela, in his Gaura Leela, he finally blessed Kamsa with prema. And Kamsa became a great devotee of the Lord in the form of Chandkazi.
O King, by the passing of time, land and other material possessions are purified. By bathing, the body is purified. And by being cleansed, unclean things are purified. By purificatory ceremonies, birth is purified. By austerity, the senses are purified. And by worship and charity offered to the Brahmanas, material possessions are purified. By satisfaction, the mind is purified. And by self-realization or Krishna consciousness, the soul is purified. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:5-4.
So when we want to learn about how to purify different things, there's an entire chapter in the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Srila Sanatana Goswami, how different articles can be purified. And here, in short form, in this 10:5-4, Sukadeva Goswami is describing the different elements, how they can get purified. For instance, land eventually becomes purified over time. And then the body gets purified by bathing. Then unclean things are purified by washing them. But some things can't be washed. So in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami describes from various shastras how one can clean things that can't be washed. If one's interested, they can read those different direct senses. We have to engage in tapasya. And if we want to purify our material possessions, we have to give charity to the Brahmins and worship the Brahmins, because they're representatives of the Supreme Lord. If we want our mind to get purified, we have to be satisfied with whatever the Lord sends us. And ultimately, the soul is always pure. But if we want to act on that purified platform, we have to become Krishna conscious.
These are Shastric injunctions concerning how one can purify everything according to Vedic civilization. Unless purified, anything we use will infect us with contamination. In India, 5,000 years ago, even in the villages such as that of Nanda Maharaj, people knew how to purify things, and thus they enjoyed even material life without contamination. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.4 purport.
We'll read as we go along how the gopis never went to college or universities, but they were so well educated in this process of purification. Anytime Krishna was saved from a demon, they knew so many mantras. They would bathe him in cow urine and smear cow dung everywhere. And all the different products of the cows they understood to be purifying. And in that way, village life was always pure, because they took complete shelter of Gomata. Just as we're trying to do, we have so many medicines now, so many different cleansing products, simply derived from our mother the cow. So this was natural living for the villagers of Braja, because they were completely dependent on the cows for everything, for their livelihood, for their food, milk. So many unlimited preparations can be made from milk products, and from even their cleansing of their homes, they use the cow dung. For diseases, they use the different products also. So the basis of purification comes from Gomata, because she's pure. So therefore, the villagers even, these simple Vaishyas, they knew how to live a pure life, and we need to learn from them.
In that ceremony, all the Brahmanas assembled began to chant different kinds of Vedic mantras to invoke all good fortune for the child. There are different kinds of chanting known as Sutta, Magadha, Bandi and Virudavali. Along with this chanting of mantras and songs, bugles and kettle drums sounded outside the house. Krishna Book, Chapter 5. The Brahmanas recited auspicious Vedic hymns which purified the environment by their vibration. The experts in reciting old histories like Puranas, the experts in reciting histories of royal families, and general reciters all chanted, while singers sang, and many kinds of musical instruments like bheris and dundubis played in accompaniment. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.5.
So bheris are bugles, and dundubis are kettle drums. Just as we heard earlier that when Vasudeva was born, from the sky came the sound of the demigods beating on the dundubi. So his name is Anaka Dundubi. That's another name of Vasudeva. There were many kettle drums being sounded by the demigods at the time of his birth. So now also, at the time of Krishna's birth ceremony, the dundubis were being sounded along with the bheris, and all of the different types of the Brahmins were very happily engaged in their services of chanting the histories, Puranas, the family histories, and then there were the reciters who chanted auspicious mantras. So it was a very auspicious moment with so many purified sound vibrations purifying the entire atmosphere.
On this occasion, the joyous vibrations could be heard in all the pasturing grounds and all the houses. Within and outside of the houses, there were various Varieties of artistic paintings done with rice pulp and scented water was sprinkled everywhere, even on the roads and streets. Ceilings and roofs were decorated with different kinds of flags, festoons and green leaves. The gates were made of green leaves and flowers. Krishna book chapter 5. Vrajapura, the residence of Nanda Maharaj, was fully decorated with varieties of festoons and flags. And in different places gates were made with varieties of flower garlands, pieces of cloth and mango leaves. The courtyards, the gates near the roads and everything within the rooms of the houses were perfectly swept and washed with water. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:5-6.
So we've heard that in Vaikuntha, but in Braj the opulence is different. In Braj the opulence is flowers. So all over in the houses, in the lanes, everywhere, the houses were decorated with flowers and leaves and trees. These are all coming from nature. And this is the way the common village people, they decorate and make everything very opulent. Just as when we read about the 64 arts, several of the arts include many, many different decorations made from flowers. Flower beds, flower crowns, flower earrings, all the different types of flower decorations that are ornaments of Sri Krishna in the spiritual world.
All the cows and bulls and calves were smeared with mixture of oil and turmeric and painted with minerals like red oxide, yellow clay, manganese. They wore garlands of peacock feathers and were covered with nice colored dresses and gold necklaces. Krishna book chapter 5. The cows, the bulls and the calves were thoroughly smeared with mixture of turmeric and oil, mixed with varieties of minerals. Their heads were bedecked with peacock feathers and they were garlanded and covered with cloth and golden ornaments. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:5-7.
So you can see here also in Braj, even to this day, if you go out into the villages, the little children, they go out, they herd the cows during the day. And during the day, when they're going through the forests and the pasturing grounds, they pick up leaves, they pick up peacock feathers, and they decorate the cows with those. It's very nice. So when the cows come home with them, the cows are all decorated, and they're decorated also with these minerals and feathers and flowers. So this is natural, happy life. And this is the way Krishna grew up. And this is exactly what's going on in the spiritual world also, as we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead has instructed in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Subhavajam. Farming, cow protection and trade are qualities of work for the Vaishyas. Nanda Maharaj belonged to the Vaishya community, the agriculturist community. How to protect the cows and how rich this community was are explained in these verses. We can hardly imagine that cows, bulls and calves could be cared for so nicely and decorated so well with cloths and valuable golden ornaments. How happy they were. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.7 purport.
So we all know that Krishna carries a flute. And why does he carry the flute? Well, he calls the cows with the flute. So he's in charge of the Goraksha. And we know that Balaram, he carries a plow. He carries a plow because he's in charge of the agriculture, right? So you need a plow for agriculture. So the two of them together, as perfect Vaishya sons, they were helping Nanda Maharaj with the Goraksha and the agriculture.
As described elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, during Maharaj Yudhishthira, During Maharaj Yudhishthira's time, the cows were so happy that they used to muddy the pasturing ground with milk. This is Indian civilization. Yet in the same place, India, Bharatvarsha, how much people are suffering by giving up Vedic way of life and not understanding the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.7 purport.
So Srila Prabhupada, he made a trip once to what was at that time the New York farm. Prabhupada had named it Gita Nagari. So in Gita Nagari, the cows were so happy because the devotees took such good care of them that everyone got milk. The dogs got milk, the cats got milk, the people got milk, everyone. And the cows were even giving milk without giving birth to calves because they were so happy with the service done by the devotees. So Prabhupada noticed that the dogs didn't even bark in Gita Nagari because they were so happy from the milk. And the cats, they would come over and rub against the cows because they were so friendly with the cows. So Prabhupada, he explained that this is real Vedic living. When everyone is happy by serving the cows, and especially the cows are happy, and when the cows are happy, they give so much milk that just like in Yudhishthira Maharaj's time, when everything was according to the proper dharma, they wet the pasturing grounds with their milk.
When all the ecstatic cowherd men heard that Nanda Maharaj, father of Krishna, was celebrating the birth ceremony of his son, they became spontaneously joyful. They dressed themselves with very costly garments and ornamented their bodies with different kinds of earrings and necklaces and wore great turbans on their heads. After dressing themselves in this gorgeous way, they took various kinds of presentations and thus approached the house of Nanda Maharaj. Krishna Book, Chapter 5. O King Parikshit, the cowherd men dressed very opulently with valuable ornaments and garments such as coats and turbans. Decorated in this way and carrying various presentations in their hands, they approached the house of Nanda Maharaj. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.8.
So this was the Vedic situation of the Vaishyas. They were wealthy. They had gold. They had everything they needed. They had surplus so they could give charity. And when there was a celebration, they would come and give gifts. They would dress up very nicely. The women would wear their ornaments. The men even would wear ornaments, put big turbans on their heads, and also have jewelry. So it's not like nowadays where the farmers are so poor that they commit suicide because they can't maintain their families and pay back their loans. It's such a sad situation now because in Vedic times it's the Vaishyas who were feeding the entire society. And all of this comes from taking care of the cows nicely.
When we consider the past condition of agriculturists in the village, we can see how opulent he was, simply because of agricultural produce and protection of cows. At present, however, agriculture having been neglected and cow protection given up, the agriculturist is suffering pitiably and is dressed in niggardly torn cloth. This is the distinction between the India of history and the India of the present day. By the atrocities, by atrocious activities of Ugra Karma, how we are killing the opportunity of human civilization. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.8 purport.
So a few days ago we heard about the emergency, and at that same time, for the first time in the history of India, it was made legal to slaughter cows. In the 70s, yes. First in Tamil Nadu and then in Bengal. Before that, it was against the law to kill cows in India. And there was total prohibition here in Vrindavan. There was no question of any of the sinful activities that we see going on now in Vrindavan. It just didn't exist. You couldn't see any of these things here. So there's been so much degradation even in the past 50 years, to the point where now the agriculturists, who are supposed to be the most wealthy, are suffering terribly. And all of this can be corrected by proper care of the cows. So we'll end here today. Hare Krishna.
You should do a radio broadcast. You should listen to a radio broadcast so it can broadcast it.
It's on YouTube.
Broadcast it all the way to Delhi and everything.
Oh. We'll leave that to you.
You can do it on Facebook, right?
Well, we have our own YouTube channel called ISKCON Vrindavan, and all of these classes are on that.
So, I mean, the broadcast is knowledge to the people.
Who would want to hear other than devotees?
Just speak in Hindi and people hear.
Yes, Prabhu.
As we can understand, when
People
Lord
are suffering.
appeared, he appeared first to Vasudeva, he transferred from Vasudeva to Devaki. And here he is saying about Yashoda, that she served Nand Maharaj, and then Krishna was concerned in there.
Yes.
Yashoda. So how can this difference we can understand?
We can't understand
We
it.
can understand.
No. I can't understand it.
We have to accept it, whatever is.
Just try to understand it, but we'll never understand fully.
Okay.